Hey guys, how are you? LinkedIn Live Wednesday. Now, Michael, this is a bit of an unusual LinkedIn Live, as I was saying to Joe earlier on. When we do our usual franchise LinkedIn Lives, it's either from a well-known um, franchisor, multi-unit, or if not a well-known supplier, at least a supplier in a segment that people readily recognize. I'm not sure our audience readily recognizes what a fintech is, so we're just going to jump here to this, and you can explain this to our audience.
Yeah, it's a great question. A fintech, to put it most simply, is the ability to take sort of traditional financial services and provide a better experience to the end customer by virtue of the fact that we can use technology now to do things that we couldn't have done previously. So an example of that would be, the 25 years ago to apply for a bank account, I would have had to go in person to a bank. Now that's something I can do, whether in my personal life or for my business, entirely online.
Yeah, and what has changed that allows that, and how are you guys part of that sort of revolution?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot that has sort of changed kind of in terms of the underlying technology and infrastructure that enables us to be able to build the kind of experiences that we're building, but also that fintechs are building broadly. Some of these technologies include the fact that we can now connect to individuals' bank accounts. So we can connect to a business's bank account and use that transaction data to provide meaningful insights to a multi-unit franchisee, for example. I think another example is that it's become increasingly easy to transfer cash um, between banks, and not just between bank accounts, but between different banking institutions. And so what we see is, a lot of people that ultimately need to be with many different institutions to get service. And because of the advent of recent technology, now they can have a consolidated view and an actual consolidation of their cash by virtue of sort of what's technology that's come onto the field in the past 5-10 years.
So, if I'm getting this right, I might have I might need for my business because I have I might be 100 plus units. And I might have 30 or 40 bank accounts, and I need to see them all at once, right? And prior to maybe even 5 years ago, I would have to be signing into like 40 or 50 tabs, even if I was doing online banking, right? So a way to think about it is what you're doing is consolidating all of those tabs into one app, and people can see all of that information and do all of the things that they'd be doing just just on your one app. Is that the right way to think about these things?
Yeah, that's the exact right way to think about it. And one point I'd bring up that sort of undermines or sort of underscores the importance of this all is the fact that in addition to technology that makes it, now easier to view your cash and to move your cash, there's also a broader economic environment in which interest rates are now higher than they've been in 20-25 years. um, and so the combination of the two means that it's more important than ever to ensure that business owners and particularly multi-unit franchisees know where their cash is, and also make sure that they're earning a competitive interest rate on that cash as well.
Joe, do you have some questions here about fintechs and restaurants?
I
Joseph?
do. I do. I do. I have a question about this fintech. How easy is it to set this up? for someone that may not be really good at this kind of thing, but needs to have the information readily available?
Yeah, so we've spent a lot of energy making sure that the onboarding process is as easy as possible. And so what that means is it's as easy as logging into your existing banking institutions, which is done on our platform via a secure third party that's also used by American Express, QuickBooks, and the like, to securely store your bank account information. Um, and then the other part is to complete a short bank account application that we have, um, which once done will allow you to earn 4% interest on a fully liquid checking account.
How many people within my organization can I have on there with access?
Yes, so it's a great question. We give uh, that control entirely up to you as the franchisee. So you can have viewers that can only just sort of see data on the platform, but you could also grant sort of others with ownership access to the account. And so we've built out a whole suite of options with respect to user provisioning and various user controls.
And
And
you, go ahead, Joe.
and I, in terms of everything's about time and money. What kind of time savings does for the franchisees that are on it? What kind of feedback have you got from them about what are they saving? How are they benefiting in terms of time and cash management? What are they able to do that they weren't able to do, and how much faster are they able to do it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think in terms of the time savings, one particular example that comes to mind is 100 unit plus franchisee based out of the Midwest that we've been working with, and in using Altier, we've actually reduced the time it takes for them to reconcile their bank statements by 66%. And so really significant time savings on that front. And they also operate within a very large QSR brand. Also, for a QSR customer of ours, we've been able to significantly reduce the amount of time that they have to spend manually moving funds, because we can automatically initiate transfers from the connected bank accounts into the 4% interest checking account. So, for example, if I have 20 locations and have 20 general managers who all deposit cash at the end of every day in whichever bank has the nearest branch to that store, for me to run payroll at the end of 2 weeks and use that cash would mean that I needed to make 20 different manual transfers that I hope all hit in time in order to then run payroll. The alternative is now you could use Altier. Those funds are swept daily, which means they earn as much interest as possible, 4% interest, and the sort of those earnings are optimized by virtue of it being moved daily. And then at that point, I can either run payroll directly from the Altier Amplify account, or equally, I could just make one transfer versus 20 in order to get the funds back into my main payroll account.
Yeah, interesting. And this is a question I don't know the answer to. Say I've got 100 locations, and I'm a major brand, so I'm doing annually per location over $1 million. Do you find that most of those level of franchisees are still having their general managers physically make deposits, or are they having a service come in like a Brinks or somebody to pick up money and deposit? What do you find to be the case?
It's a really good question. I think we often find that people have interest in sort of the Brinks and services like that, but they're generally prohibitively expensive.
Mm-hmm.
is what we've been finding, and the result is that multi-unit franchisees have to use multiple different bank accounts across multiple different banking institutions to be able to accommodate the cash that comes into their business. And that creates a lot of complexity. It sucks up a lot of time, and equally, it makes it really hard to optimize and earn as much interest as possible on the existing cash a business has on hand.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking of managing 100 locations and as a COO, and I've got all of these general managers. I want to visually be able to see that they're making the deposits at the end of the day. I don't want to find out, oh, I was too tired to go to the bank because the bank is in the opposite direction as my house. I'll just take the money home and I'll deposit it in the morning. Not a good thing. I want to know that. So this will be able to not definitively know it, because if I put the deposit in at 11 p.m. at night, I'm not sure that 8 a.m. dropping off is gonna be detectable, but at least I have some comfort in knowing. Do I have? Am I going to enjoy that kind of comfort?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Yes, the answer is you would enjoy that kind of comfort. But also, we're thinking really deeply about, what does it look like to build out a product that is the single source of truth for determining, where your cash is at any given moment, and that is inclusive of cash deposits. And so we've gotten a lot of requests from customers who want to know, I'd love a daily email telling me, when did my cash deposits occur? How much were they? That way I can then pull my point of sale report, easily compare the two, and know exactly if I'm losing any funds from register to bank account. And so, that is definitely something that we are going to be actively building over the course of the next next quarter or two.
Let me just jump in here because this is an interesting side bit here. On POSs there in restaurants, they're notoriously bad for sharing their APIs. So it's very hard to get the type of connectivity that you would like, for your app. Have you run into that problem? How have you solved that problem?
Yeah, so we are not integrating with point of sale systems today. Our focus
I
is
see.
on the business's cash, sort of as it exists in banking. We're aiming to sort of fill the void, that's been kind of left, in large part by sort of there being less and less sort of, regional or local bankers that can meaningfully serve franchise businesses. Um, and so I would say that kind of, more than anything else, that's our overarching goal. And in terms of sort of reconciling anything with the point of sale system, the way we've been thinking about, something like deposit notifications, um, is in that it would be a helpful tool to improve on, what may be an existing manual or otherwise non-existent process
Yeah,
of determining whether or not the cash has arrived in a prompt manner, to the bank account of the franchisee's choosing.
I see. Okay, so you're still really on the banking end,
That's
but
right.
this is helpful for people who might want to check up, what their POS is telling them. We had $100,000. We banked seven of it. That's terrific. Well, no, we have a bit of a problem there. Oh, I see. It's Joe. It's that guy Joe who took that cash home.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious if you've got enough feedback yet to know this, because this is, certainly could be utilized on desktop, and it could be utilized on mobile. Do you find that the um, hypothetical that an owner of 100 plus locations um, may look at this on their mobile just to check in, whereas the controller, the CFO, or the accounting department lead, they're using it on desktop because they're looking at multiple screens and multiple tabs. how do you find people utilizing the Altier platform in those respects? Is my hypothetical kind of how people might do it?
Yeah, I think ultimately that's definitely how we envision sort of the platform kind of functioning. In its current state, we only have a desktop platform,
Okay.
and so it's only a website. But we definitely have gotten the mobile request quite a bit. And I think one of the things that we're going to be doing, as we build out mobile capabilities, is introducing, elements such as deposit verification emails. Um, that way we can be sort of extending our reach as a platform into sort of whichever channels are most convenient for our end customer, the franchisees.
So
Interesting.
let's go back to this 100 unit multi-brand um, um, operator. They probably had 30 plus bank accounts, I'm guessing, if they had that many units. Is that about right? 25, 30 plus?
Yeah, actually, I mean, we see this number vary quite a bit. But
Right.
for 100 locations, it could be as few as, prior to Altier, it could be as few as 25 or 30 bank accounts. It could be as many as, 120, 150 bank accounts for 100 location.
Holy
uh,
crap.
for 100 locations, and it could be everything in between. And so we really see all sorts of variations. And I think the sort of broad underlying theme, and this has been one core element to the platform as we built it out, is that we want Altier to be able to accommodate both of those use cases
Right.
just as easily. And I think we've been able to achieve that in providing sort of a very clear consolidated level of data aggregation, cash management, and just broad visibility into a business's cash position that really doesn't exist in the market elsewhere today.
And so who at the, let's sort of go through the levels of this. Who's doing the day to day working with the desktop? Okay, I had these, let's say, 50 bank accounts. I was working. How were they working before Altier? I don't even get this. Right? If you got 50 bank accounts, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah, so oftentimes people have to spend, and we see all kind of people throughout organizations working with the platform, and both for large organizations we see their internal accounting teams or CFOs working with the platform. For smaller organizations, maybe one or two locations, we often see the franchisee, the owner operator themselves directly working within the platform. But for the case you brought up of what would previously have been
Yeah.
happening if I had 50 bank accounts, the answer is it would have taken me hours a week to go in, log into each of those accounts, assuming I recall every password
Yeah.
properly, but
Yeah. Yeah.
log into each one of those 50 accounts and then initiate transfers from there, um, which is an incredibly cumbersome process, versus the notion that now with Altier, I can connect those accounts and have those funds automatically swept or moved for me on a daily basis, into an account that's earning 4% interest. And one thing I'd elaborate on, sort of that we're seeing kind of in terms of customers creating those transfer rules, is we're really seeing two different types. One type is for customers that will connect their existing bank accounts, and they'll make it a balance based rule. So they'll say any dollar above $100,000 in my Wells Fargo account, I want that to be automatically transferred into the 4% interest checking account. Um, you know, it also works, by the way, it can be set as a minimum. So I make sure that none of my external accounts fall below a certain amount. Um, and then, the sort of the second way that we see that get used is you can set up time-based rules where sort of on a consistent basis, um, amounts of cash are being transferred from one account into the Altier account.
And are you guys seeing, there is a movement to be paying your employees quicker than the 2 weeks. Have you run into any of that? And is that an advantage that you guys can offer?
So it's not an advantage we offer. It is definitely something we've seen kind of in the market today. Obviously, we're curious to learn more about it and
Right.
understand, what would building a really great solution in that space look like. Um, but as of today, we don't offer anything on that front.
Okay. I mean, I'm not sure, Joe. In the QSR, we've heard about moving to even daily pays, but I don't know of any QSR who's really embarked on that.
Yeah, I think people are a little bit wary of that because once you start getting your money faster, you still have the same amount of money. So I think they're a little bit worried about that kind of thing. I'm not sure it's as big a benefit as people might think. Going from every 2 weeks to 1 week, well, I could see a benefit there, but being able to get my money on Thursday instead of on Monday, I'm not sure.
So now when this person, I want to go back to the sort of the decision making of this 100 unit brand, because look, people are going to be very hesitant moving their bank account or even giving their bank account information out. And you come along and say, hey, please do it here. I mean, there's obviously a real trust factor that you had to overcome. Um, how did, if you can, how do you think they thought about what was the moment in their mind when they said, oh, Jesus, I'm going to be saving, tons of time on this? How did that demonstration, if you will, work, or what was the light bulb moment?
Yeah, I think the moment really came in that by connecting their bank accounts, it's sort of no different. The service we use, as I mentioned earlier, is a third kind of are third parties that are also used by QuickBooks, American Express, and others to securely link existing bank accounts to our platform. Um, and so I think the idea was that they connected their accounts, they began the process of using the platform for cash concentration for some of their locations.
Okay.
You have to do it for all. um, they noticed that that process sort of was working well, and if they brought it to scale in their organization, it had the ability to really meaningfully reduce the amount of time they spend on bank reconciliation. And that's ultimately what happened.
So, what sort of buy-in at what level did you have to get A, the demo, and B, who then made the scaling observation? Because, I would suspect you probably need the CEO or maybe CFO's buy-in to do the demo, do the trial, and then the, people are internally say, "Holy crap, this is really working." Tell us a bit about how you see that decision cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I think it obviously varies and is entirely dependent on the organization and their unique factors, for every franchisee and every different business. Um, I'd say, broadly what we see is either, initial engagement with kind of a CFO of a business,
Hmm.
or the sort of owner operator, or the CEO of the business. And then, after that, we sort of have a continuous engagement with the accounting and finance team of that franchisee group where applicable, to make sure that the platform is functioning properly, being used in the right way, um, and ultimately that it's able to serve their needs properly.
Okay, and from your experience with this group out in the Midwest, how long did it take for them to realize, wow, there are, for, minimally, there's huge time savings.
Yeah, I'd say about 3 weeks.
Well, that's very good. Yeah.
And I would note, that was because we did a lot of sort of, we were very fortunate to have early customers that we've done sort of a lot of building with. Right now, I think an organization, of if you are 100-unit franchisee or a 50-unit franchisee or really of any size, you'd be able to see the benefits of using Altier near immediately after signing up.
Okay. And so then there you're taking away the sort of the dummy work, signing in, logging in, remembering your login, cursing that you forgot your login, going to find where your login was, resetting your login. So you get all of this dumb work. And then what did these people, if you know, what did they end up doing with the saved time? I mean, did they just, yeah, hopefully we're not going to say, well, they were all fired.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good question. I'm not sure what, my sense is from having worked with, now had the privilege of working with a lot of franchisees, is that there is an endless stream of work to be done. And so, if we are saving time in bank reconciliation, that's great. But, what I'm very confident is often the case is that time will then end up being filled by something else with respect to the business that may have otherwise been neglected because of a need to focus on bank reconciliation.
Yeah,
Um,
probably
and
right.
so, I'm not sure exactly, what it is, but I suspect that there's, enough work to be going around among, pretty much every customer we serve.
There will always be new TPS reports.
Oh dear, that's silly. Um, so let's make it real clear for our audience, because we've mixed in this, this getting on the platform with also the savings, opening up an Altier account. And, for many people, they're going to say, well, there are various restrictions I have with my own bank. So I can't even use Altier because I can't change my bank account, or I don't want to change my bank account, or I want to change my bank account, but not now, blah, 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 blah. So, but they can use your platform. They can use that significant part of your platform and get this time management savings, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Um, you're able to get the sort of the savings from an aggregated view across your bank accounts and with respect to bank reconciliation, without having to actually go and sort of engage in banking with us. Um, and I would also note that we ourselves are not a bank.
Right.
We are provider banking or sort of access to banking services by virtue of our partnership with a bank called First Bank down in Nashville. Um, they are a top bank. Hold well in excess, of 10 billion in deposits, and equally, are sort of the reason why cash that's deposited through the Altier platform is able to have FDIC insurance, is protected, and so forth.
Now, let me ask you a bit about, and I don't know the answer to this, but it used to be that people would get around that 250,000 limit with FDIC by opening essentially what's called a trust account and throwing in tons of money and then dividing it up by the number of beneficiaries. Right? That loophole's been closed. Is there a way that you can now um, help people? Um, Reopen that loophole. That is, just have a lot of bank accounts with 250,000 is the limit, and now manage them with Altier.
Yeah, what I'd say is, we have a partnership with a network called Intrify, that's able to provide enhanced FDIC insurance, sort of by virtue of working with thousands of banks and credit unions,
Right.
To sort of swap deposits, if you will, and provide a greater amount of FDIC insurance coverage. Um, you know, one of the decisions we made as a business really early on was to apply that to all deposits, on our platform, um, sort of, regardless of whether, without charging the customer for it or
Right.
making it, some elective feature they have to turn on. I think there's real importance on having obviously FDIC insurance and ensuring that
Yeah.
deposits are secure. And so that just reflects, our deep commitment to that.
Yeah. Because I mean, when that Silicon, what was it called? Silicon Valley Bank, Silicon something bank, uh, blew up. Um, yeah, there were a lot of people now. They weren't in the franchising industry, but they had considerable amount of money, and first time they'd ever heard of a bank run, I guess. But and then the FDIC sort of came up with an unusual ruling to save them. But this seems to me again to add to the trust factor and the sleep at night factor that you guys can provide. That instead of having to, think about how much am I at risk on the out of insurance, you could say you're not, and this is why.
That's
All right.
exactly right.
So, and the more of these things that you can offer um, that are unique to the platform, the more I think you're building towards being a trusted partner. And even though you're not like a bank, you're as trusted as, well, I'm signing into my bank through my. If you sign into your bank through your browser, you can sign into your many bank accounts through Altair, right? I mean, what's from a psychological point of view, there should be no difference.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, when I hear you describe this, Michael, um, the single source of information on your deposits and your cash, it just makes me think of what many people enjoy personally with having a Schwab account, or Schwab, being part of Schwab and having all of their accounts show up aggregated, and you can cross deposit and transfer, and you can see everything you have on there, and in a snapshot, and it's safe and secure, and you feel very comfortable with that. Am I oversimplifying this?
No, I actually don't. I don't think you are. I mean, I think that there are a lot of parallels, to what we're doing, and I think the kind of visibility that exists for consumers in their personal financial lives.
Yeah.
That's to say that, as a consumer, it's easier to manage your cash than it is, to manage your cash as a business. And that really shouldn't be the case. And I think, that is a large impetus for what we're doing here at Altair.
Yeah, no, I think Joe's right on that. If you take a lot of different uses of your smartphone, and you're saying, look, if it's easy to do on this for me, why isn't it easy to do for my business? What's the difference, right? And say,
Yeah,
and you're just saying you're right. There shouldn't be any difference.
yeah,
So
that's exactly right. The underlying tech, is the same.
so
Yeah,
let's go back. I'm sorry, Joe.
this seems like a really, really simple platform once it's set up. But say I'm that 100-unit, multi-unit, multi-brand franchisee, and I have changing staff in my accounting department. Can Who do they call over at Altair to talk to about how this works if they're confused? They've never seen this before, or they have a question about what it can do. How's the customer support done? Is it email? Do I call on the phone? Do I send smoke signals? What do I do?
Yeah, so you could email us at hello@altair.app. and we'd be able to respond equally. We have our number is on our site, altier.app, but we're able to provide service that kind of includes a real person who will be answering the phone, and ultimately we're able to sort of walk any franchise business through onboarding themselves onto the platform.
So let's just go back to, because we sort of skipped a bit over this on how you're able to offer interest on basically a checking account where there'd be no interest before, right? So typically, if I'm have a business checking account, I'm not going to have any interest on it. And you're saying, hey, there's no reason for you to put up with that any longer. So what's changed in the sort of the banking world that has made this possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's changed largely is that kind of uh, more than anything else, the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's made for a higher rate environment. And I think if you combine that with technology that allows it or makes it easier for business owners to see and manage and move their cash, you end up, you create an environment where, banks really want deposits. And so that means that they're willing to partner with, companies like Altier, and pay a premium rate on those deposits to be able to attract them into their institution. And so, put differently, we're helping to bring deposits that otherwise wouldn't have been brought in to the bank's ecosystem or deposit base.
Yeah, I think you're right that that there's going in this rate environment there's going to be a competition for deposits. But I wonder if you think that there's something more structural going on here, that there'll still be that increased competition for deposits. The way here's how I think of it. This is just you know the smaller banks, the regional banks, yeah, anybody, as we move more online, there's less value to opening or having tellers do the same thing that you could do online. So that becomes a cycle, and it's less easier to find your local bank. So you start thinking, hey, my banking will be online. Now, if you've done that, well, how does the bank, how do fight for deposits? Well, they got to fight for deposits by having some sort of online visibility. They're highly regulated. They can't go out and say, you know, make the sort of pitches that a lot of people would make. So, they have to find value added resellers like, or value added platforms like yourselves, and they got to bid on deposits, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's broadly right.
Right? And that's not going away. Well, it would go away if Amazon died tomorrow and we didn't do any more online. But that's part of the sort of structural change here, so that and why this is important for guys like you, because it's not just that in this high rate environment you're able to give this benefit. You expect to be able to give this benefit. I mean, the actual benefit may fluctuate, but the benefit is still going to be there.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
And that's going to help people sort of have that long, again, it's one of those trust building factors. Oh, these guys are going to be around for a long time, right? Right, because people have to think that's why banks, and banks still in Canada, are built like cathedrals, right? So you walk in and you say, yeah, I can trust these people. So um, are there other benefits that you guys are thinking about, or give me a bigger picture about in 2 or 3 years where you'd like to be?
Yeah, so I think the way we sort of see ourselves in 2 or 3 years is that we've been able to serve a segment of businesses that fall into the following category, which is my sort of my local or regional bank or credit union is not able to adequately serve my needs as a business. But I'm not, the size of Coca-Cola or Apple. So JP Morgan Chase isn't going to give me, significant attention as a customer. And one of the things we've been observing at Altier is that increasingly there are more and more businesses that are excellent businesses, and would find themselves in that category. And I think ultimately we want to be able to build out services and financial services that empower franchisees to optimize their cash, um, grow, and spend all on the same platform.
And what about, I'd seen a bit about this, and I wonder if you could explain the idea that it's possible, or as I understand it, it's possible that when people sign up for the all tier onto the platform, that visibility into their, I'll say it, here's how I'm thinking about it, the visibility into their banking will help lenders make an assessment, a quicker assessment of, can we loan this person, say, for a remodel? We know the remodel is scheduled. It's in the FA, it's in the FTD, blah, 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 blah. We know this. We know what that's going to be like. We have a long window, at least 18 months, most of the time, into these remodels from the franchisor's side. They want the remodeling. They're not going to financing it. They're not going to finance it. Um, but it's in everybody's interest, the brand's interest, to get all of that lending lined up as quick as possible. So tell me a little bit about how you guys have seen that, how you think Altier can help.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the sort of structural advantages that the platform has, is, you know, connecting all of the bank accounts. The platform gives the ability for sort of our technology to very easily answer a lot of the questions that loan underwriters would want to know the answer to.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and so, the result is that, uh, as a franchisee, I'd have the ability to access capital a whole lot more easily, than I would, not being on the Altier platform, because sort of the loan application process is shortened a lot. And then, I think obviously on the forward, one of the things we're going to be looking to build out and are thinking about quite a bit is, how can we leverage relationships with franchisors to be able to provide, real, sort of, uniquely differentiated capital products, to franchisees within systems. So, for example, if we could partner with an entire franchisor system or brand to be able to provide loans for new unit acquisition,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that we would be very interested in. We have, on our platform, the infrastructure to facilitate that. It's sort of a matter of, there being the right franchisor engagement.
And so,
That would be very, very appealing from as being a former chief development officer. Be have that kind of visibility and be able to make those kinds of links to the remodels or new unit development and the lenders. That's brilliant, because that gets to be a bottleneck. I mean, it's always hard to get people to do remodel because they don't want to pay for remodel often. But when you need to do the remodel, getting the financing lined up so that it happens on a timely basis, that's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant to be able to do that.
so if Joe says it's brilliant, it's probably time to stop because we're just going to go down from there. But we'll have
Exactly.
to come back and talk about the remodeling and other benefits and some other case studies.
Well, maybe we'll
Right?
have a case study for a franchisor that does what Michael just described the next time.
That would be fantastic.
Hopefully.
All right, guys. Thanks
Thanks
very
Bill,
much.
so much.
Appreciate it. Bye bye.
Thank you.